The man with the boiled face. I had a very paranormal experience happen to me when I was a kid. My best friend told me to post it here. We all have one memory that haunts us as a child, the one we push so deep into our subconscious that eventually we forget about it. Mine came back with a vengeance. I must have been 9 or 10 years old at the time. My family has always lived on about 10 acres of land in Louisiana, surrounded by woods and cow fields. During the daytime, it was every kid's dream. Woods to explore, plenty of room to play, and most importantly, no neighbors to worry about. But during the night, it was a whole nother story. When I went outside at night, I always felt like I was being watched by something, whether it being from the animals or something else entirely. Outside at night scared me. One night, I was getting ready for bed. It must have been 10 o'clock at night. As soon as I turned off the light in my room, I heard a tapping on my window. 5 taps. Tap, 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 tap. This confused me. There were no trees near my window to scratch on it, so what was making this noise? I went to look out the window to see what was making the tapping. What I saw shocked me to the core. I saw a man staring back at me, smiling. What completely messed me up was his face. He looked like he was stuck in a fire. It was oozing liquid and pus. What skin he had left on his face looked like it was stretched too tight. Therefore, it was cracked and bleeding. I stared into his sharp blue soulless eyes. As terrified as I was, I could not look away. Finally, I blinked and that broke the spell. I screamed for my parents, running out of my room as fast as I could. After I told them what happened, my dad went outside to look for the person I named Boilface. To no such luck. He was gone. The face. So, for the past year, some really eerie things have been going on inside my house. I just found the subreddit, so I thought I'd share my story. I'd just gotten home from a friend's house. I was sitting at my kitchen table talking to my mom. At the time, we had a sheer curtain separating our kitchen and dining room. She was cleaning up and left the room for a minute. I took the opportunity to get on my phone. After a little bit, I heard some shuffling in the dining room and continued the conversation with her. We live alone, so I assumed it was her. When she did not respond, I looked up to see a face on the other side of the curtain. I was too shocked to remember quite what it looked like. I just stared at it for a few seconds in complete dead silence. It turned out that my mom was outside talking on the phone. All I can say is that things have just gotten worse since this happened. It's gotten way out of hand. Anyways, that's it. I have more stories that are worse than this that I might post later. Mr. Redface. Now, this subreddit was a bit hard to find, but I finally found it and would like to share my story. I will be doing it in 2 parts, as Mr. Redface happened in 2 separate parts of our lives. Deep breath. Here goes. In the year 2011, my fiancé and I moved into an apartment complex called the Washington Square Apartments in Pulaski, Virginia. I don't mind saying all that because I wish to ward everyone away from that place. Not because of the spirits alone, but it's also just a horrible place to live in. My first child was already a year and a half old when we moved in, but we were happy to be in the country, a start to the life of our dreams. Now, I'm not a native to the Appalachian like my fiancé, so all the friends I came to visit on a regular basis were his. We'll call the first friend to tell us something wrong Clarence. Clarence was in prison when we first moved in, and when my baby girl was nearly 2 years old, he was released. Living with his parents was out, because they weren't exactly easy on him. We offered him our couch. He helped clean since he couldn't help with the bills, and would often spend time playing with my little one. The first one to notice something was off was Clarence. He was sitting in my kid's room playing blocks with her, facing towards the door. Now he swears to this day that something was watching them, and that when he looked up, a shadowy figured head shot away from the doorway. I was in the kitchen getting dinner ready when he came running down the hall all excited and flustered, asking if I'd seen something run down the hall. Of course I hadn't. I was too busy making dinner. He told me what he saw, and having had paranormal experiences in my life before, I didn't take it lightly. Fast forward a few months, Clarence is still living with us, still helping whenever he can, and trust me, I appreciated it, with my kid and the house in general. We were both beginning to notice every once in a while, out of the corner of our eye, we would think we saw a childlike shadow silhouette disappear around the corner of the hallway wall. My daughter, now 2 and some months, was beginning to talk. We'll call her Anna for now. Anna knew quite a few words at this point, like what to call all adults in her life. That our cat's name is Kitty Man, Doggy, Num Nums for food, so on. Baby talk. We started noticing that Anna didn't want to sleep in her room. She would fuss and whine, cling, turn limp noodle when you tried to pick her up to carry her to bed. I assumed it was normal for her age to start resisting, but one night, she really started crying. Red Kitty Man is mad. Now that's not me. Our cat is black. She'd never seen a red cat before, and we don't have cable. We don't watch much of anything really, so it wasn't like she could pull it from something she saw on the television. I tried asking her, "What's Red Kitty Man?" She went on about a red tiger kitty man to the best of her vocabulary. I could tell how frustrated she was not being able to describe him much further than a tiger, red tiger kitty man, mean, mad. Clarence was listening to this, and his eyes just went wide as he shook his head slowly at me from across the room as if to say, I have no clue what she's talking about. I believe him. He's never had her all to himself without me around. Even if he had, he's not the type of guy to tell a little kid a scary story. For months this went on, fighting my child to go to sleep in her room. She'd cry about him being mad at her, sitting in the corner, telling her he wouldn't let her sleep. I was petrified. I didn't know what I would do. I told her, ignore him, tell him to go away. If you tell him to leave, he can't bother you. After that, every night I heard, go away, repeated like a mantra for at least an hour before she went to sleep. Go away. Go away. It progressed after that. I was hearing her talk during the day in her room when she was by herself. No! Go away! Leave me alone! Now, I know all children have imaginary friends. I've had plenty of experiences with children in my life before having my own. Thing is, never once was her imaginary friend nice to her. It was always her telling him he was wrong, he was mean, he needed to stop, or to go away. Often, I would try to creep down the hall to try and peek in the room while she was talking, but every single time, without fail, she would stop talking long before I reached the door and turn and stare like she was expecting me. Now, if I had creaky floors, I would think I was giving myself up, but they weren't. Concrete slabs don't creak. It was unnerving, because she wouldn't say hi, just stare at me with frustrated, tired eyes. She was almost always tired by this point. She didn't sleep well, always fell asleep at around 9 p.m. I remember one night, she was about 2.5, maybe a bit closer to 3 by this point, that I was walking down the hall to go to the bathroom. Bathroom is right across the hall from her bedroom, and as I flickered on the light, I checked in her room really quick, parental habit, to make sure she was sleeping all right. She was sitting in the middle of the floor, wrapped in her blanket, staring at her little TV that was awash of that static, fuzzy black and white. I knew I turned the TV off after she fell asleep to her usual Little Mermaid movie, so I was certainly shocked. I rushed in and picked her up. She was unresponsive, eyes open, but nothing was registering. I was trying to talk to her. Anna! Anna, sweetie, are you okay? Anna! I was becoming panicked. Clarence came rushing down the hall by this point, as I was jostling her on my hip in near tears, trying to get her to answer me. He was cussing at the corners of the room, shouting at who we've come to call Mr. Redface to leave this poor baby alone. Go the fuck on now. Get out. Shame on you messing with this little baby. Get the fuck out. I think it was the shouting, or maybe his presence shook the hold off of her, but she blinked and looked at me with those big blue dark circles under her eyes, like she hadn't slept at all. Oh, thank God, Anna, are you okay, baby? I'm sleepy, she'd say, as she rested her head on my shoulders. I'm tearing up as I write this now, so pardon any grammar errors. It's hard to see this sort of thing affect your baby, and not knowing what to do. That night, I didn't lay her back down in her bed. I instead told Clarence that she'd be sharing the couch with him if he didn't mind. Of course he didn't. He slept on the chair next to the couch and watched her like a hawk. I didn't sleep a wink. Instead, sitting at the desk watching the living room like I was possessed. My mind was rushing with what I could do. I could bless the apartment, but what if it just pissed it off? We couldn't move. We didn't have the money saved up yet. None of us slept well. We never felt rested. Even if we did sleep a decent number of hours, we felt worn down and out of it. Summer was coming, and so I started opening the windows and leaving the door open to get some fresh air through the house. We did start going out more, and even though we didn't have the energy to play, just sitting in the sun was at least nice. Strangely, during the summer and fall, Mr. Redface took a break from tormenting us. We still didn't rest well, but the shadowy figures were significantly less, and Anna wasn't talking to him at all, or saying he was watching. She did rest a bit better, though. The rings under her eyes remained. Now, part 2 will follow soon. This is just a hard story for me to tell. I mean, it still scares us all to think about it, and reduces me to tears every time. Until next time, remember to be aware.